The envelope sat on the kitchen counter, thick and official-looking, addressed to Cynthia Reyes. My mother. I usually tossed her mail onto her desk without a second thought, but this one felt different. It was from the First National Bank, a statement, and the corner was ripped just enough for me to glimpse a name: Laurel Reyes Education Fund. My name is Laurel, and I'm 22. My heart did a weird little stutter. Education fund? That was a cruel joke, right? For as long as I could remember, college was a pipe dream. We just don't have the money for two, my mother, Cynthia, who is 48, would say, her eyes always fixed on my older brother, Vance. He's 24, 2 years my senior, and his path was paved with every resource imaginable. SAT tutors, campus tours, a shiny new laptop for his engineering program, and full tuition to a state university. For me, it was always, maybe a community college later, if you save up. Or, you're so good with your hands, Laurel, maybe a trade school. The implication was always clear. I wasn't worth the investment. Dread started to coil in my stomach. I carefully, almost surgically, peeled open the envelope. Inside, a detailed statement confirmed it. A savings account, opened in my name when I was a child, designated specifically for my education. And there it was. A balance of exactly 0.0. My breath hitched. The dates, though, that was the kicker. The fund hadn't been empty for years. It had been active. There were deposits, small at first, then larger sums, accumulating over time. And then, just a year ago, a single massive withdrawal. A transfer. The memo line, small but damning, read, Vance Reyes tuition payment. Spring semester. $12,000. My education fund. Emptied for Vance. All those years of being told no, of feeling like I was less, like I didn't deserve the same opportunities as my brother, it wasn't because there was no money. It was because there was no belief. In me. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow, sharper and colder than any lie I'd heard before. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the deliberate, calculated choice to erase my future for his. The proof was right there in my hands. I didn't wait. The bank statement felt like a live wire in my hand. When Cynthia walked in, humming from her yoga class, I met her at the kitchen island. My voice was surprisingly steady. Mom, what is this? I pushed the statement across the granite, my finger pointing to the Laurel Reyes Education Fund line. Cynthia, 48, barely glanced at it. Oh, that old thing? It's nothing, honey, just some paperwork. Her tone was dismissive, already waving me off. It's $12,000, Mom. My name is on it, and it says it was transferred to Vance's tuition a year ago. The words felt like sandpaper in my mouth. Her smile faltered, replaced by a tight, practiced expression. Look, Laurel, she said, picking up a fruit from the bowl. Vance needed it. He has a clear path, a career. You were never really focused on college. We had to make practical choices. She didn't even try to lie. The smugness in her eyes, the casual way she dismissed my entire future, made my blood run cold. Honestly, I never thought you'd make good on the investment. Just then, Vance, 24, strolled in, phone to his ear. What's up? He mumbled, pulling out headphones. I turned to him, the raw hurt in my chest boiling over. Your tuition, Vance, my education fund. Mom took it. He shrugged, a casual, entitled gesture. Yeah, Mom mentioned something. It's just money, Elle. You weren't using it. Michael, my father, 50, appeared from his home office, drawn by the rising tension. Cynthia, Laurel, let's just calm down. We can talk about this. His voice was weak, a familiar plea for peace that never actually fixed anything. He looked at me, then at Cynthia, then back at his shoes. Useless. That was it. The last thread snapped. All the years of feeling like a second-class citizen in my own home, all the quiet slights, the blatant favoritism, it wasn't just my imagination. It was real, documented, and confirmed by their casual indifference. My resentment sharpened into a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't going to just talk about it. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice flat. I walked straight to my room, grabbed a duffel bag, and started stuffing clothes inside. I called Piper, my best friend, who was 23. "Hey, can I crash at your place? Like, tonight? And maybe for a while?" She didn't even hesitate. "My couch is always open, Elle. What's going on?" I promised to tell her everything. As I cleared out my nightstand drawer, pulling out old notebooks and a forgotten jewelry box, my fingers brushed against a small, stiff envelope tucked deep in the back. It wasn't mine. It was old, yellowed, and contained a few faded letters and a couple of official-looking notes. The handwriting wasn't Cynthia's. A strange, unsettling feeling washed over me. This felt like more than just a bank statement. This felt like a secret. Piper's apartment was a sanctuary. Her couch was surprisingly comfy, and her outrage on my behalf was exactly what I needed. I dumped the old envelope from my nightstand onto her coffee table, along with the bank statement. "This is just the tip of the iceberg, I think," I told her, my voice still raw from the confrontation. Piper, 23, immediately dove in. She's always been the one with a knack for digging. We spent the next few days holed up, fueled by takeout and a shared sense of injustice. The old letters turned out to be from a distant aunt, detailing a small inheritance left for me when I was a kid, managed by Cynthia. The notes were from various school officials, confirming my acceptance into a competitive high school art program and a summer science camp. Both opportunities, Cynthia had told me, were too expensive or not a good fit. I found an old email chain where Cynthia, 48, had explicitly told the art program coordinator that I was no longer interested and to disregard my application. It was sickening. She hadn't just neglected my education, she had actively sabotaged it. "This is insane, Elle," Piper said, her brow furrowed as she scrolled through another archived email. "She literally intercepted your acceptance letters." My resolve hardened. "I need more. I need her to say it again, on record." The next day, I called Cynthia. My heart hammered, but I kept my voice calm, almost detached. "Mom, I just need to understand. Why did you take my education fund for Vance?" She sighed, a put-upon sound. "Laurel, we've been over this. Vance, 24, needed it. You didn't. It's simple economics." She went on, explaining how Vance was the sensible investment, how she had to prioritize. I let her talk, my phone recording every callous word. She even admitted in her cold, rational tone that she'd always favored Vance because he was more likely to succeed. When I hung up, my hand was shaking, but I had it. Proof. "This is gold," Piper declared, listening to the recording. "We can leverage this. Publicly." As we sifted through more of Cynthia's old files I'd managed to grab, looking for anything else, I stumbled upon something even weirder. A series of small recurring bank transfers from Cynthia's account to an account belonging to April Mackenzie, Cynthia's closest friend, 47. The memos were vague. Family emergency, urgent help, loan repayment. But there were no corresponding repayments to Cynthia, and the amounts were small enough to go unnoticed individually, but added up to a significant sum over time. And I knew for a fact April had never mentioned any family emergencies to me or anyone else in our circle. Cynthia had been siphoning money from her own best friend under false pretenses. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was a pattern. There was no turning back. The evidence we'd gathered, the bank statement, Cynthia's recorded confession, the intercepted acceptance letters, and now the transfers to April. It all painted a picture of calculated manipulation. Piper, 23, looked at me, her expression grim but resolute. "Are you ready for this, Elle?" I nodded, a cold calm settling over me. More than ready. We worked for hours, meticulously compiling everything. I created anonymous accounts on a few local community forums and a popular social media platform. I uploaded the screenshots of the bank statements, the emails, and the most damning parts of Cynthia's recorded confession. transcribing the key quotes where she admitted to favoring Vance, 24, and redirecting my funds. I made sure to redact any truly private information, focusing only on the financial and emotional betrayal. Then, the hardest part, sending the links. I crafted a careful, anonymous message, attaching the links and a brief, factual summary of what the evidence showed. I sent it to April Mackenzie, 47, Cynthia's closest friend, and to a handful of other women I knew were part of Cynthia's tight-knit social circle. Piper, being the social media wizard she is, took it a step further. She shared the post to local parent groups, framing it as a cautionary tale about parental financial abuse and favoritism. The silence after we hit send was deafening, but it didn't last long. Within hours, my phone started buzzing with messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Piper's phone was blowing up too. The posts were gaining traction, people were outraged. The comments section exploded with stories of similar experiences, but also with shock and disbelief from those who knew Cynthia. The real fireworks started when April called me directly, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "Laurel, is this true? About Cynthia and my money? And your fund?" I confirmed it, my voice steady. April, who had always been so loyal to Cynthia, was furious. Not just for herself, but for me. She started sharing the posts within their private group chats, adding her own testimony about the family emergencies that never existed. Cynthia's carefully manicured image, built on a foundation of being the perfect mother and generous friend, began to crumble. The next morning, the first real consequence hit. My phone rang. It was Vance. His voice was laced with panic. "My internship, Laurel. It's gone. They just terminated me. They said, due to recent negative publicity affecting the company's image." "What the hell did you do?" He sounded completely blindsided, unaware that his privilege had just come with a very public price tag. My stomach twisted, but I felt no regret. This was only the beginning. The fallout was immediate and brutal. I didn't go back to the house, but Piper, 23, heard from a mutual friend that the Reyes home was a war zone. Michael, 50, had finally snapped. He confronted Cynthia, 48, about the years of lies, the manipulation, and the public humiliation. He was tired, our friend said, of being caught in the middle, of Cynthia's constant need for appearances. For the first time, Michael's silence had broken, but it was too late to mend anything. Vance, 24, called me again, his voice tight with fury. "You ruined everything, Laurel. My internship was my shot at a real career. What did you think you were doing?" He still didn't get it. He was angry about his lost privilege, not the years of my lost opportunities. I didn't bother explaining. He'd been benefiting his whole life. Now he was finally facing a consequence. "You reap what you sow, Vance," I told him, then hung up. My focus shifted. While the chaos erupted around my family, I was quietly taking steps for myself. I remembered the last few $100s that had been in my education fund before it was completely emptied for Vance's tuition. It was a small, forgotten amount, but it was still in my name. I called the bank, explained the situation with the fraudulent transfers, and managed to put a hold on the remaining balance. It wasn't much, maybe a couple of $100s, but it was mine. Then, I started emailing admissions offices. I looked into technical programs, something practical, something I could build a real future with. I found a local college offering a certificate program in digital media. It was a 6-month intensive course, and it felt right. I spent hours on the application, poring over the essays, determined to prove to myself, more than anyone else, that I was capable. A few days later, a text message popped up on my phone from an unknown number. It was short, chillingly direct. "You haven't heard the last from me, Laurel. You think you've won? You've only just begun to pay." It was Cynthia. Her anger was escalating, turning into a desperate need for control. I stared at the message, a cold knot forming in my stomach. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot, but I wasn't backing down. Starting the digital media program felt like stepping onto a different planet. For years, I'd been told I wasn't academic, that I lacked focus. Now, sitting in a classroom, Surrounded by people who were genuinely excited about design and technology, I felt a familiar anxiety bubble up. What if they were right? What if I really wasn't cut out for this? But then the first assignment came, a project on user interface design. I dove into it, spending hours researching, sketching, and building. When I presented it, the instructor praised my creativity and attention to detail. I aced it. The relief, mixed with a surge of pride, was incredible. It was a small victory, but it was mine, earned entirely on my own terms. A girl named Kylie Richardson, a classmate, came up to me after class. "That was really impressive, Laurel," she said, genuinely. "Your design was super intuitive." We started talking, and it was easy. She didn't know my family drama, she just saw me, Laurel, as a capable, intelligent person. Her validation, simple and unburdened by years of familial expectation, meant more than she could ever know. Meanwhile, Cynthia, 48, wasn't letting up. She sent me an official-looking letter threatening legal action for defamation and demanding I retract my statements and return to the family home. She even tried to freeze the small amount of money I'd managed to secure from my education fund, claiming it was her property. But her threats were empty. The public had already sided with me. April Mackenzie, 47, and several other women from Cynthia's former social circle publicly offered to provide testimonials about Cynthia's manipulative behavior and financial deceptions. They were done protecting her. The local news picked up on it. A reporter from the Daily Chronicle called me, asking for an interview. "We've been following the online discussions," she explained. "It seems like a significant story about family dynamics and financial abuse." My heart pounded. This was it. The chance to tell my side, not anonymously, but as Laurel Reyes. It was terrifying, but also exhilarating. I agreed. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about finally, publicly, proving them all wrong. The knock on my apartment door was sharp, insistent. I knew who it was. My stomach clenched, but I took a deep breath. This was it. I opened the door to Cynthia, 48, and Vance, 24. Cynthia's face was a mask of furious desperation, her carefully coiffed hair slightly disheveled. Vance looked pale, his usual entitlement replaced by a raw, wounded anger. "Laurel, what have you done?" Cynthia hissed, pushing past me into the small living room. "My reputation is in tatters. People are calling me names. April won't even speak to me. You need to fix this. Now." "Fix what, Mom?" I asked, my voice steady, betraying none of the tremor in my hands. "The truth?" "Don't play innocent," Vance interjected, his voice rising. "My internship, my future. You've ruined everything. Just tell the reporter it was all a misunderstanding. Say you were confused, that you fabricated it." Cynthia stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "We'll tell them you're unstable, that you have a history of making things up. It's your word against ours. You're a child, Laurel. No one will believe you over your own mother." I almost laughed. "You think that's going to work? After everything I've already put out there? After April and Michaela Brewer, our neighbor, have already backed me up? I have more, Mom. So much more. Old report cards, letters from schools you never let me attend, even more financial records. And I have the public on my side." I pulled out my phone, showing them a screenshot of the overwhelming support I'd received online. "You don't have leverage anymore. I do." Just then, the door opened again. Michael, 50, stood there looking utterly exhausted. He must have followed them. Cynthia whirled around. "Michael, tell her she has to stop this madness." He looked at Cynthia, then at Vance, and finally his gaze settled on me. A long, agonizing silence stretched between us. Then, in a voice I'd never heard from him before, quiet but firm, he said, "Cynthia, it's over. Laurel is right. You can't lie your way out of this. Not anymore." Cynthia's face crumpled, her anger dissolving into a terrifying, silent desperation. Vance stared at Michael, then at me, a dawning realization in his eyes. He wasn't just losing an internship, he was losing the carefully constructed reality of his privilege. Without another word, he spun on his heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Cynthia sank onto my tiny couch, her shoulders shaking. The power had shifted. She was broken. Hours later, the news story dropped. It was a comprehensive piece, detailing the education fund, the intercepted opportunities, and the testimonies from April and others. It painted a stark picture of Cynthia Reyes. The comments section, already buzzing, exploded. My mother's social downfall was complete. As the chaos settled, leaving a strange, quiet aftermath. Cynthia, 48, was effectively shunned. Her phone went silent, her social calendar empty. I heard through April, 47, that Cynthia had even tried to attend her usual book club, only to find herself completely ignored. Her carefully constructed world had imploded. Vance, 24, was forced to take a job waiting tables, a stark contrast to the prestigious internship he'd lost. He still hadn't apologized, but the forced reckoning with his own privilege was a kind of justice. Michael, 50, had started calling me, tentatively at first, then more regularly. He didn't try to defend Cynthia, or even himself. He just listened, and for the first time it felt like he was actually seeing me. It was a fragile start, but it was a start. My own life, however, felt like it was finally blooming. Surrounded by new friends like Piper, 23, and Kylie Richardson, my classmate, I felt a sense of belonging I'd never known at home. The digital media program was challenging, but I loved it. I aced another major project, a complex web design, and the satisfaction was pure. It wasn't about proving anything to Cynthia or Vance anymore. It was about proving it to myself. The victory was bittersweet, though. Revenge, I realized, came with its own cost. The emotional toll of tearing my family apart, even a family that had hurt me so deeply, was heavy. There were moments of doubt, of sadness for what could have been. But then I looked at my grades, at the new friends I'd made, at the future I was building, and I knew it was worth it. I had reclaimed my worth, my voice, and my future. The small amount of money I'd managed to freeze from my education fund, a few $100s, was enough to buy some new software for my program. The rest, I decided, wouldn't go to me. I anonymously donated it to a local women's scholarship fund, specifically for those pursuing vocational or technical training. It felt right. It felt like true karma.